Why do we need a standard of competency for architects? Architects are an incredibly important profession to the life of Australia, economically, socially, culturally. So we need to know that our architects are highly skilled, highly proficient, and all maintain a nationally acceptable standard. And a standard that's acceptable to the public, to industry, and to the profession itself. So the National Competency Standard actually does that. It articulates in one document the requirements for the development of competency, education and competency on the pathway to registration as an architect in Australia. So the competency standard comprises 4 units of competency, and they are design, documentation, project delivery and practice management. So sitting under those four units, there are 9 elements of competencies that really group like or similar activities. And that's a very difficult thing to do because, of course, we know that architecture is not a linear or sequential process. And so what the standard does in its online editable format, it shows us how we can use the standard to compare what is the requirement of an architectural professional education, as opposed to what do students of architecture learn, what is the outcome of their professional education, and then what other competencies do they need to be developing as they move towards registration as an architect. So post-graduation, the relevant work experience, and what standards underpin that. There's been an updating to reflect changes in practice, an updating to try and remove the repetition, and also an updating to do some things to really try and remove some of the confusion between project management as actually a job or a job title and project delivery, which is really what architects are involved in. I think one of the things that is really fantastic about this standard is the fact that we have published it in an online version. And if we look at the mapping of the assessment programs, we can see how we can look at the standard as a whole. So we can look at it and fold down through each of the units and each of the performance criteria, etc. Or we can look at what is required at the outcome of an architecture program. We can then also we can compare what are the competencies required in an architecture program to those required for the architecture practice exam. Another aspect of the standard, which is which is new and is taking a little bit of time for people to get used to, is the idea that we have identified different levels of performance, if you like, through a knowledge, through an application of knowledge, and then through to an application of knowledge and skill. And that makes sense when we think about the way competency is developed. Obviously, a person at the end of an architecture program may have high level knowledge of the way a project might be delivered, but they can't demonstrate how that is applied in the context of architectural practice. So we might see the same performance criteria required at the knowledge level in the education program, and then required at the the application level, the application of the knowledge and skill when we get to the architecture practice exam. So we have one standard, unlike other countries around the world who might have a standard for their professional education, another standard for their internship or practical training, another standard or requirements for a practice exam. In Australia, we have one benchmark.